KSR's Jack Pilgrim here in the nightmare territory where all hell broke loose once again in Indianapolis. I just don't know what to say. This place is it's a pit of misery. I hate it here. This is where the St. Peter's loss happened for Kentucky back in March that ended that season. It was also where the Champions Classic was held back during the COVID season, where it was an awful environment. The Kentucky Wildcats fell to Kansas back then, and it was basically a wide open convention center where you could hear every squeak and every ball dribble. There were no fans allowed. It was an absolute nightmare. Kentucky lost that one, and then the 34-point loss against Duke in the coming out party for Zion Williamson, and where he reached superstardom. Kentucky was on the short end of the stick on that one. They got the ugly side of that. That was obviously a devastating one. And then the 38-1 Wisconsin loss back in 2015 against Wisconsin. That was once again a just absolute awful scenario that was once again held in Gingrich Fieldhouse. We're here once again, double overtime loss against Michigan State. About as ugly as it could possibly get. The offense just went stale. They held a pretty solid lead there to begin the game, and then the offense just slowed down to a complete halt, and then the Fighting Tom Izzos of Michigan State mucked things up. They played physical, tough brand of basketball. It's what he's known for, and unfortunately, Kentucky just wasn't prepared for that. We got the return of Oscar Tshiebwe, and he was kind of the saving grace for Kentucky, finished it with 22 points and 18 rebounds in his return. But outside of that, about as ugly as it gets. And with that, I will open to questions as I'm here at the podium where all the magic happened.
Jack, quick question. With all these shooters, how come Kentucky cannot put the ball in the basket?
Great question, because if you ask Coach Cal, said after the game that a big part of that was because they had open looks and they just didn't take them. After starting this season with back-to-back performances where C.J. Frederick and Antonio Reeves led the team in scoring in both performances with absolute on-fire performances from three and overall. They combined for, I'm pulling up the stats here, C.J. Frederick goes for 5 points, 2 of 7 shooting, 1 for 6 from 3. Antonio Reeves 5 points, 1 of 7 shooting, and 1 for 3 from 3. They couldn't get open. It was a back and forth hot potato between on the wings for C.J. Frederick on one side, Antonio Reeves on the other, passing it inside to Lance Ware, passing it inside to Oscar Tshiebwe. No real semblance of anything run for them, but when they did get those open looks, a lot of times they didn't take them. So unfortunately, it was not only a cold performance, but they couldn't get open and get the opportunity to get out of their cold slumps either.
Kentucky keeps having breakdowns on inbounds plays underneath their own basket, and again, it comes back to haunt them. Is this something you just had to deal with Calipari?
Unfortunately, that's what Cal talked about. He said, unfortunately, that's just what happens because this is a team that this is their first real game together. Xavier Wheeler talked about it after the game as well. They haven't got any real practice time together. This is their first time as a unit with Oscar Tshiebwe in the lineup, with Damian Collins back, with Xavier Wheeler back to 100%. Neither of them started today, Oscar Tshiebwe or Xavier Wheeler. They ended up closing the game until Oscar obviously fouled out in the first overtime before really all hell broke loose after that. That's really when the wheels fell off for the Wildcats. 13-1 run to close out the game for Michigan State in the final 3.5+ minutes. Kentucky finished 0 for 6 from the field and no field goals in the last 4 minutes. Pretty much a disaster and a half there, Stephen.
As far as Jacob Toppin, it looked like maybe he was forcing some things late. You talked about that in the last rapid reaction you and Zach did.
Yeah, he was clearly down after the last game, said, it's in my head right now. I'm trying to get things figured out. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm in the gym. I'm doing everything right in my head at least, and it's just not translating to the game. And I think tonight highlighted that quite a bit, and it was a real issue for the Wildcats. He tried to force the issue and shot them out of pretty easy situations and scoring opportunities. But at that point it was late in the game and nothing else was working. So I understand why Jacob was trying to force his hand a little bit, and it just didn't work out for him. I don't know what it is. He finished 10 points, 3 of 8 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, 3 for 4 from the line. Again, it's a constant situation with him him, didn't play poorly, but definitely did not play up to the star standard he set for himself going into the year. He also got hit with a bunch of ticky-tack fouls. And on that note, the officiating was absolutely awful. John Calipari can't say that up here. He'll get fined. He'll, get in trouble with the NCAA. But I certainly can. The officiating was absolute garbage. No, it wasn't the reason why Kentucky lost, but there were so many calls that made no sense. A.J. Hogard goes down with an injury, and then Kentucky has numbers 5-on-4 running down the other end, and the refs just decide to stop play, which I don't know about you, but that's never been legal in my time covering basketball. Just several different calls where it just felt like it was, very one-sided, ticky-tack on Kentucky's end. You really had to earn it on the other end for Michigan State. That part was very frustrating, and definitely not a reason why Kentucky lost, but it certainly did not help.
Izzo said for Kentucky fans not to jump ship yet, but this is a good team. Something positive, I guess, Kentucky fans can take from this, so they don't jump ship.
Not all games are played at Gainbridge Arena, Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. This place is haunted. It's a nightmare. I never want to come back here ever again. If Kentucky ever schedules a game, I'm never coming back. I rest assured this is my last time ever at this podium, ever inside of this arena. So if there's any positives, it's that Kentucky, fortunately, fingers crossed, won't have to play here ever again, at least for the rest of this season. It is what it is. Kentucky wasn't prepared for this moment, the physicality, when you don't have a guy like Oscar Tshiebwe in the lineup for the first 2 games of the year. And, he's missed an entire month. Getting used to him, understanding that, yes, you can rely on him, and you could, when the going gets tough, you can go at a guy like that, and he can carry the load, but it doesn't have to be exclusively him. You can run other things to get other guys open and switch things out, and it doesn't have to be just solely relied on Oscar Tshiebwe. And I think when push comes to shove, this team has so many pieces that John Calipari doesn't know what to do with necessarily. We saw at the very beginning of the game, he was messing with rotations, and just the lineups were very confusing and back and forth. It very clearly felt like he was testing a lot of different things, trying to come up with some semblance of an idea of, okay, who works better together with others? Is there anybody that doesn't work very well with another individual? I thought we got a lot of that out of John Calipari, and it was a test run. And when you don't have an opportunity to play in a game of this magnitude with your teammates, the minutes that they receive, and especially in a double overtime game, so more of a workload on top of all things as is, that definitely creates a difficult situation. That's why Tom Izzo said, don't jump off the boat. There's no reason to panic if you're a Kentucky fan. This is a really, really good team. John Calipari said, look, it is what it is. We just weren't ready for that moment. He took a lot of ownership, and I did appreciate that in terms of late game execution. Obviously, some of the things that they ran, the out-of-bounds plays, defending the out-of-bounds plays, as we talked about earlier. There were so many head-scratching errors both with coaching and execution that were inexcusable, and I think that's something that John Calipari took ownership of after the game. Said, that's it happens whenever you have a team that's brand new coming together for the first time in an environment like this. I need to do better to put them in a better position at the end of the games, and hopefully that happens by the end of the season. I think that's definitely a possibility.
That's all I got.
Well, that's all I have here. Thank goodness, because I am going to leave this podium and I'm going to walk out those doors and I'm never coming back. I hope this place has a very successful future without me and the Kentucky basketball program, because I certainly hate it here. So that's all from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That wraps up our KSR Rapid Reaction.